I'm restretching a painting and I'm actually going to change the format while I restretch it. So I want to show you how I'm doing that and why. So what I was thinking about when I saw this painting and what I wanted to change is just basically the overall format. I didn't like how there was so much extra space on the right side here. It kind of makes her shoulder feel too broad. It's a little bit too much space on that side. It's too open. It's just kind of weird. It gives an uneasy feeling. So I wanted to crop that in. So what I decided to do is I'm going to stick to some of the lines, but I'm going to crop in on that side and bring that in just a little bit so that way she doesn't look like she has such broad shoulders. So I've got these stretcher bars here. I'm going to use this rubber mallet, pound them together, and it's also important that you use an L frame or you use something to make sure that all of your sides are square. It does become important, especially if you're going to get your painting framed. You want to make sure you're giving something good to your frame maker so that way they can frame it properly and you're not going to have uneven edges inside your frame. And now what I can do is I can take my stretcher bars and I can use that to kind of frame and see what I'm working with here. You'll be able to feel and you'll be able to see on the canvas where the old stretcher bar marks are, and that can be your guideline. So most of the time, if you're just restretching and you're going to actually use the same size stretcher bars, you will use those as a guideline, and you want to first fix it into one corner and then you work to the other sides. In this case, because I'm actually changing the format, I need to pick a side. If I want to choose one of these sides to remain the same as it used to be, such as the bottom, that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, then I need to line it up with that side and base the rest around that. This is going to be roughly my format here. So I just put the canvas face down and you can see here on the back side, you see some of these lines still. You can see where I used to have stretcher bars. So I'm going over the top of this. So I can just push this right into the corner right here, but I'm gonna just pull this around and I'll pull it around on the top side. And I'm not going too hard, but now I can pull this up and I can see what it looks like with that crop. So I can pull around on the side here and it starts to give me a more clear idea about what that's going to look like. So far, from everything I can tell, I do like that. I'm pretty much just going to go for it now. I'm gonna use that bottom line down there as my main guideline. So I'm gonna fix the canvas to that line, and I wanna make sure right in here, where this hard line is on my linen, that's what I want to line up on this edge. On the front edge of your stretcher bars is what's creating that crease. So that's what I'm trying to line up. This is the other thing you want to look for when you start to get this on here. You want to look for the line that's going to be on the side here. So I want this edge to line up with my new stretcher bars. I don't want for some of this like background. This luckily not such a bad color, but I don't want that to be showing over. So, you know, if I had something like this linen right here, let's say if that was my stretcher line, that would be very disturbing if suddenly you see some of that kind of white or linen color showing through. On this side, I'm going to loosely place a staple, and I don't know if you can see, but there is a lot of loose canvas here. I'm going to do the same here on the top. I know that I have a crease right here. That's all that I'm looking at. I want to make sure that crease lines up with my stretcher bars. So I'm taking my canvas pliers. I'm going to go along the back side here, and I'm pulling, but it's not really doing much of anything. I'm just going to keep it lined up here. That's really it. That's good enough on that side for now. The rest of that side looks like it's pretty lined up, so I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to come here to this side because this side is also going to be pretty important. I don't want to go any further until I make sure that I can actually line this up how I want. So I'm just pulling on the canvas here. I'm testing to see that this edge is going to be lined up, and it is. You want to make sure you have that paint lined up with the edge, because if you don't, it's going to be visible even once that canvas gets inside the frame. Again, I'm stretching very, very lightly, not really putting any pressure at all. I'm kind of just holding it in place. This corner here is my main reference, so that's going to be the first corner that I stretch towards. Now I'm going to go lengthwise. Usually you want to do the height first and then do the width, because the height is going to have more slack. So all that I'm doing here is I'm just pulling it tight. I'm not trying to pull it hard. You shouldn't have to really strain or put a ton of effort into the stretching side of things. Because this corner here was the only corner that I actually needed to be accurate, then I'm pretty much just smooth sailing. I can stretch these sides without any real worry. If you did need to restretch a canvas, and that's probably the most common actually, is that you restretch while maintaining the same format, then you want to make sure that all of your sides are lined up. You just do the same thing I did here, put some other staples in place on these other sides to make sure you have your edges there, and just go first with two sides. You're going to choose two sides that you think are more important and get those ones in place. Make sure the edge is all the way lined up. You're not going to stretch hard. You're just going to line up that edge as perfectly as you can. You want to make sure it's just even with how you had it before. Then you're going to go and you're going to stretch those other two sides. And if your stretcher bars were square before, they're square now, everything worked out, then it should be lining up perfectly. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes you have to choose one side that doesn't matter as much, where you can let a little bit go over the edge. Okay, so that's it. Now I've got it restretched, reformatted. Something to consider if you're going to reformat your painting is that you can actually get a sort of preview of that if you take a picture and just crop it on your phone. If you're having problems with your composition, there's too much space or imbalanced space, maybe your figure ends up being out of place or in a different place than you expected, then you can always reformat. You can change the actual format, the size, to get the painting how you want in the very end. So that's what I've done here. You can consider that for your own paintings. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.